Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here, and we are back with the next tier list video for the first video of this really crazy Whizbang wild arena meta. Well, there's a lot of things to talk about for what's actually going on with this meta, because it's absolutely unlike anything we've ever seen. Quests are back, heroes are back, it's wild, it's really confusing what cards are in. I'm going to make an entirely separate video just to talk about that, just so, there's too much of it. If there's no way I can get to all of it in the context of this video, and if I did, it would be like 30 or 40 minute video. So I'm going to split this all into two different videos. I'm just going to make this video about the regular class tier list where I rate all the classes against each other, because at least as of currently, the balance is among the worst it has actually ever been in Arena. So it's very important to know basically which classes to pick, which classes not to pick. So with that, well, let's just get started with the by far strongest class in the meta right now, and that is Hunter. So the question may be asked, why is Hunter so strong? And the answer is, why would Hunter not be strong with the cards they have, basically, because that's what's determining everything. And there's a lot of changes. Basically, the new stuff for Hunter is really, really good. You can get like turn 5 lethals just off of the new cards, basically, but also Wild Seeds are back, and they were unnerfed. They did a wave of unnerfs and stuff that have impacted this as well. There's like core set changes. Again, this is stuff I'll talk about in that other video, but basically Hunter just has unbelievably strong tools. They have the best aggro tools in the game, probably the best mid-range tools in the game, and they even have some pretty decent control tools as well, such as their hero like Zul'jin, for example, which I actually have a run up on YouTube with right now. But yeah, Hunter's just basically way better than almost every class. Let's talk about the next class up at the top as well. Won't bury the lead here. We'll go into Demon Hunter. I should mention, like, Hunter is going to be the only class in S tier. Demon Hunter is also going to be the only class in A tier. So why is Demon Hunter really good? Basically, well, they're one of the classes, along with Death Knight, that is not impacted by the Discover changes. Basically, you can discover all of Wild. Again, I'll explain that in a later video, but if you're one of the newer classes, Demon Hunter or Death Knight, you actually only get to discover, well, at least mostly new cards. You can still discover old neutrals, but you can only discover new class cards. It just makes their discovers way better, and that's very important for like the demon discovers in Demon Hunter, for example. One of the only good discoveries in the game, basically, but also very similar to Hunter. They're one of the only classes that can like somewhat at least try to keep up with Hunter, tempo-wise and aggro-wise. So that's another reason why they're really strong. And yeah, the two top classes are the best aggro classes, so you can kind of get a sense of how the meta is based off of that. There are a lot of games, a lot of interesting things can happen if the game stalls out, but there's a lot of games that get ended very early based off of who goes first and things like that. So yeah, that's why Demon Hunter is very strong, just because they're basically almost like the next best Hunter, basically. They do things a little differently, but that's kind of how it works. With that, let's jump down to a couple of the bottom classes here. And I don't have that much to say about them individually because I haven't played them. I don't intend on playing them anytime soon, so I'll just lump them together. They are going to be the two classes in F tier, that is Rogue and Priest. These classes are both interesting. Priest definitely got some tools, but again, like they don't have like a theme of this meta based off of the cards they actually put in. They put in all this crazy aggro, but they didn't actually put very many small AoEs. I do think Priest has Holy Nova, but like other than that, there really isn't much. Like Mage doesn't have Fire Sale or any kind of small AoE like that either. You're really limited on what you can actually get as far as AoE, and that's part of what makes Hunter and even Demon Hunter so strong. And Priest just doesn't have enough of that to keep up, and Rogue, I don't think they have anything. They probably still have Skulker and Fan of Knives, but that's just not good enough to stop a lot of this stuff most of the time. And Rogue was basically doing exactly what they did a month ago, which, was pretty good, but it's just every other class got way stronger, so now Rogue has absolutely no chance of keeping up. Now we'll jump into the B tier, I guess. Let's go over there. And let's jump into the D tier, actually. I'll explain some of the other classes that are kind of where you don't really want to be picking them. I'll go for Mage first. Mage has Frostleaf Jaina, for example, but Frostleaf Jaina, surprisingly, is not really an auto-win card anymore. It's just very, very slow. You're probably dead to the Hunter 3 turns before you can even play it. But if you get to that point and you have elemental synergy for it, it's really good. It's just you usually don't get there. And Mage does have a lot of good stuff, but again, like, it just doesn't have very reliable tempo. You do have good stall with if you get some of the new freeze, like the new freeze elemental, for example. Like, it has good tools, but it's just, you know, not at the level of some of the better classes. Next up, we have Warrior as well. Warrior has, you know, some good tools from the new stuff. Like, these classes in D tier are not bad. Like, the new Death Rattle taunt thing is really, really good. I played someone that had like 4 of those. Unfortunately, that person that had 4 of those still died because I think I was a demon hunter in that game. So he just died anyway. It just kind of gives you an idea. You have a lot of good stuff, and Warrior, again, still kind of functions similarly to how it used to, but it's just not actually that good at surviving in spite of having all the taunts in the world and things like that, at least off of what I have seen. I think it's still possible to high roll it, but yeah, it's just not as consistent. Next up in the D tier, we'll be putting Warlock. Warlock, I think based off of what I've seen, I haven't seen that many Warlocks, but they're just kind of all over the place. They do have a lot of the big demon stuff. They do have at least some of the sludge stuff still around, I do believe. But a lot of it, just really everything they have, I don't think is all that consistent. I think their 9 mana spell that summons demons, at least from what I heard, was bugged, so that might not be helping as well. They do have one of the best heroes, because they have Gul'dan in, and Gul'dan resummoning those big demons is an auto-win, basically. So that's strong. It's just, it's not always going to be that consistent. You don't always get that one hero card, because other than that, it's just not going to be that great. The last class we'll be putting into D tier as well is Druid. Druid, I do believe, has a lot of the dragon stuff. That's what I've seen. I'm sure they probably still have some of the token stuff. To be honest, I haven't seen that many Druids, or I haven't seen that many Druids live that long is probably a more accurate statement, because their new stuff just was not very good. The spell damage stuff, I don't think it works out that great in Arena. And okay, it's like, you could at least in theory get like spell damage swipes, which might be able to slow down a hunter or something, but it's just not going to work. And then most of the druids I face, they just kind of die. So that's kind of the issue, being a class that doesn't have any AoE at all in an aggro meta. This makes it a little bit difficult. And with that, let's move on to the B tier, because the reason I have so many tiers on this tier list, I didn't really mention it before, but it's because I'm actually going to have C tier be completely empty, because there is a massive divide between the bottom 6 classes and the top 5 classes. So the 3 classes we'll be putting in here, it is going to be these 3 classes I have right here, so I'll just go ahead and move them up. First one is Death Knight. So Death Knight, as I mentioned earlier, does have the advantage of having much better discovers than the other classes. However, they actually, you know, they also made the big rune buffs, which made it so like things like Frost Strike, for example, are only single rune. You basically get everything you want in Rainbow. There's almost no reason to go anything but Rainbow. Essentially, I mean, you can go double to get like Corpse Explosion if you really want to, but like, honestly, you might be better off just going Rainbow, as it probably will be in Constructed as well. And a lot of the Death Knights, I think you can go aggro, but I've actually seen a lot of Death Knights kind of go for a control strategy, just like you do with Rainbow in Constructed currently, and that seems to work as well. It's pretty solid. If you get a lot of the Frost Strikes, mainly, you get really good things. You can discover Reska still and things like that. It's still a small discover pool, so that makes it really good. The one thing is that, probably talk about this a little bit more in detail in the other video, but I was expecting Mortician and Hematurge to also be in, because they would also be in Rainbow, but one reason, a big reason that Death Knight isn't any higher is because those are actually not in the game, at least right now. I think it's possible some of the core set changes just aren't in yet, and maybe those cards rotating into core just aren't in, and that might be explaining that, but yeah. That's the main reason why Death Knight just isn't any better. They have some really good cards, but they just don't have enough consistency on that kind of discover, because that would probably put them into A or even an S tier if they were, but they just don't have that right now. Next up is Shaman. So Shaman still does a lot of the similar things they used to. I don't believe Conductivity, I think I checked, I don't think that was actually in the draft pool. So they still have the Excavates, but they don't have the big Conductivity blow up, and that limits their potential in being one of the top classes as well. But they still do largely what they did. They have they probably are the best healing class. They're probably better than like Warrior and Priest even. They have just so much healing. They have a lot of good tempo, lot of good removal. They're like by far the best removal class as well. So that helps with Shaman as well. However, they just don't have enough consistency of proactive win conditions unless you have Holiday, although that kind of messes up your deck. But, you know, that's the thing that is kind of in theory supposed to be their big win condition. If they don't have that, just a little bit hard for them to compete sometimes in the longer games. Or if they have Agatha, I guess Agatha is the other one. That's one of the best value win conditions, but yeah, that one's very slow, but it can work. It's a good class, just not at the level of the top classes again. And the last class we have here is Paladin. Paladin, it's actually a little surprising they're just not a little higher, but I think it's kind of the same problem as Druid. They just don't have that much AoE. They have a lot of really good stuff. You know, the auras are really good, but it's just a little bit hard in an aggro meta like this for them to actually stick on board. In a slower, greedier meta, Paladin would have just way more time and they would be able to do everything they want and they would, you know, be dominating. Probably they would probably be the top class if Hunter and Demon Hunter just weren't there. But that's the problem, is that I think the aggro is really limiting Paladins, because a lot of the Paladins will just die. You just don't have the AoEs to stay alive, basically. And they do have some healing, but it's not enough healing to survive some of these boards where Hunter has like 12/12 in stats from one card on turn 4 and it's just hitting you in the face repeatedly. They just aren't able to survive that, basically. But with that, that is it for our tier list video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. How have you enjoyed the craziness that is this meta? Again, I'm going to record another video at some point, maybe tomorrow. I might do it now. I haven't exactly decided yet. I need to stream too, but like, yeah, we'll see. I'll probably be live on Twitch soon as well, since I mentioned that. But yeah, I'll have another video explaining kind of more about what's going on in this crazy meta, at least as far as we can understand it right now. And some of it might change when the actual release happens on Tuesday. I believe it is Tuesday, right? But yeah, with that, appreciate everyone hanging out to the end of this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.